Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Startup Sense podcast. This is your host, Jonah Lupton. Thank you so much for joining us today. Do me a quick favor, and if you haven't already subscribed to the Startup Sense podcast on iTunes, Google Play, just do that sometime today. Okay, to the show. So today's guest is Diana Goodwin. She is the founder of a company called AquaMobile, based out of Toronto, anywhere from 8 to 30 employees, depending on the seasonality, and we'll get into that in a second. But she originally started the business back in 2003 as kind of a side hustle slash summer job, make some extra income. And then she went full time about 8 years later, and now she's been full time for about 5 or 6 years. So let's welcome Diana. Diana, how are you?
I am excellent. How are you, Jonah?
I'm good. So tell us why you first started this business, and then why it took you 8 years to go full time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so growing up, my parents enrolled me in swim lessons, and I would sit at the edge of the pool, shivering and refusing to get in the water with the swim instructor and with the other kids. And so I was not learning a single thing. And one of the other parents suggested that they try and enroll, my parents try and enroll me in private swim lessons instead, in that they might have better success. And so they put me in private swim lessons with an instructor, Miss Dawn, and within the first lesson, she threw me into the water, and I popped up and swam over to the edge. And if that moment didn't happen, we might not be here talking today. And that basically, just showed me how, by having a little bit of extra attention, it built my confidence, and I got in the water. And from there, I years later, I followed through with those swim skills, and I became a swim instructor. And with my side hustle, I would then, started going to people's home and condo pools to teach private swim lessons, because I saw myself, when I was teaching at a community center pool years later, the exact same problem where, I had 8 to 10 kids that I was trying to manage every 30 minutes, and some of them just weren't getting the attention that they needed. And all it was a matter of just having a little bit more one-on-one time. And when I started my side hustle, I saw a huge improvement in kids' confidence and their love of water when I was able to spend more time with them. And that's basically how the seeds of the business started way back when.
Cool. So after you started the business, like you said, it was kind of your side hustle, summer job, made some money. You went into the corporate world though, right? And then you didn't get back into this for 8 years.
Yeah, I did. So, as you were saying, it was my side hustle. It was a great way to make a little bit of extra cash as a university student. But after I graduated, I was offered a full-time consulting gig at Bain Company. And I kind of had forgotten about as much as I loved being an entrepreneur, it kind of got pushed to the side while I was busy traveling and working crazy long hours. But as I continued to work, I was at Bain for three years. And as I continued to work there, because I had done this side hustle, I had my corporate experience that I could compare against, my experience doing my own thing. And I realized that even though I wasn't able to put a ton of time into my side hustle because of my corporate job, I enjoyed that so much more than my corporate job. And that's when I decided that I was going to, if I was putting the same amount of time that I was putting into my corporate job, but into my side hustle, it could be way bigger than it is. And so I made the decision in 2010 that I was going to leave Bain and focus full time on growing what was Swim for Life Aquatics, and it morphed into AquaMobile, which is what it is today. And so in 2010, I actually, instead of jumping fully into AquaMobile, I actually took that year and I went and did a 1-year MBA at Kellogg School of Management, which is at Northwestern University in Chicago. And I used that year to really focus on transforming the business and taking it to the next level. So, before it had been just like this kind of side gig. Now I knew that I wanted to bring it into the United States and grow it on a much larger scale. And so I spent that year really taking a ton of different courses that would help me with that, whether it was, a business plan course, market research course, innovation courses, everything where I could basically work on my business in the classes with a group of smart people. And that's exactly what I did. So when I graduated, I guess it was July 2011, after that, I dedicated myself full-time to AquaMobile, and I had that solid base going in where I had a plan, I had a name and all of that stuff in terms of, how I was going to take the business forward.
I mean, I'm sure you were making pretty good money at Bain. Bain's one of the top consulting firms in the world, if not the best. So after you went full-time into AquaMobile, how long did it take you before you were making as much as you were making at Bain?
Let's see. That's a tough question, because had I stayed at Bain, I probably would have also been up higher too. But kind of where I think it evens out, kind of if I stayed in that part of my career, growing in position versus where I am now, it probably just leveled out. I'd say within the last year or two.
Okay.
And you know what, I wasn't looking kind of for I knew in the short term, I would be making less money than I would at Bain. For me, it was more providing myself, flexibility, freedom, control over my time. Those are huge things for me that I didn't have at Bain, and I placed a very high value on that. So that was kind of, knowing I had that right away provided huge value. And then also knowing that down the road, this would be able to provide me much better, if I do it right and it succeeds, much better cash flow and opportunities in the long term. That's what, I was also knowing that, that's something that could happen.
Right. Not just about the money, certainly more factors involved.
For sure. And that's the thing, it kind of comes to the point, even when I was first starting AquaMobile, I cared more, when am I going to get to a point where I'm making X number of dollars for myself? It's one of those things I've also, as I've gotten more and more involved in my business, and it's just my passion for it has grown. And to be honest, the money part, it just past a certain extent, it just doesn't even matter to me anymore. I just care so deeply about adding value to for the customers and my team that that's what I get so much pleasure out of, is that more so than, hey, how much money did I make this year? I mean, yes, the money is good, and it's good to have that, but it stops. It's kind of one of those things you get to a point where you realize, what, if you're adding a ton of value to people's lives, the money will just come. Don't worry about it. It's just going to happen, and they're going to be happy. You're going to be happy because they're happy, and it just kind of will all come full circle.
I mean, you're the first guest I've talked to in a while on the show that did have one of these side hustles and then eventually transitioned into it full time. So, I mean, I think some of the listeners probably deal with that, is they have this business idea, but they know they can't make money at it right away, enough to support themselves. So they have to keep their full-time job to pay the bills. And then at some point in the future, they can transition. So, I mean, from your point of view and your experience, what lessons did you learn that would have made that transition easier if you'd done something differently?
Well, I think a couple of the things that I did that was, that I was happy with in terms of the transitions, I did take it slow, as you noticed, given the number of years from, side hustle until full on business. I did take that time, and it did get to a point where the business had enough revenue that I thought to myself, well, okay, if something goes horribly wrong and I fall flat on my face with it and the business does not grow anymore, it's still bringing in enough money that I can survive off of. So that was kind of my first bars to make sure that was being met. And I think another helpful tip is, I do. Unfortunately, I see a number of whether friends or other, people trying to start a business, they leave prematurely. They know they want to do something entrepreneurial, and a lot of them don't even have an idea yet. And that's where I've seen a number of people, they leave their jobs and they unfortunately never get past that ideation phase. And I think it's really important, if you want to do it and mitigate the risk, keep your day job, but bake out time in your schedule, set days and set times where you will actually, work on your side hustle, whether it's, brainstorming what the idea will even be, or, setting up some A/B testing once you're at the point to see whether people actually want your product or service. So there's all sorts of things that can be done on the side. Is it the easiest thing to do? No, but I think long term it can help to mitigate some of the risk before you jump in full time.
Now, right now you have 1,800 instructors on the platform. How many markets is that?
That is spread over 25 states, and then Ontario and British Columbia in Canada.
Okay. So how did you scale to 25 states, outside of Canada? Where did you start? And then how quickly were you adding states? And was it, what was it driven by demand through the website inquiries, or, how did you do it?
Yeah. So the first place I started was actually in the Greater Toronto area in Canada. I am Canadian, and that's actually where my where my side hustle started was up there. So it was kind of the first place that I started, because I already had a little bit of a base market going. And so when I was the first little bit of expansion, from I'd say 2011 into 2014, those, it was slower in the first few years, or so I guess 2013. It was slower because I was really testing and making sure I understood the market and the best way to reach the market. And also I was building out the tech platform and learning and iterating from there. And so I didn't feel like we had properly cracked the nut that would really allow us to just go nuts and get it right in all markets. So, started in the Greater Toronto area. Then when I went into the U.S., the first U.S. market was with South Florida. We knew it was an area that had, warm all year round,
right.
Lots of homes with pools, right. A lot of areas that were still, that had, there were affluent areas in that, in that part of
I was
going to
ask you, right. I would assume wealthier areas make more sense. People are more likely to be able to afford to pay for private lessons,
yeah.
right?
Exactly, yeah. So that was kind of so South Florida. So we kind of used that, to start understanding the U.S. market, because it was, as the whole Canada-U.S. debate can go on for ages in terms of, are the two countries similar? Are they different? But there were just different ways for us to recruit swim instructors to reach customers. Those type of things were a little bit different, actually. And so we had to understand those nuances and also continue to build out the registration platform, because it wasn't where I wanted it yet. And this is also at a time when, now on-demand services are just, there's so many of them, right? But at the time, there really wasn't. Uber was just starting to gain traction. They were still probably just in San Francisco and maybe a couple other cities at the time. So there wasn't really a good platform that I could just go and, copy. I had to come up with something really from scratch and just keep iterating off of that to see what was resonating with people in the, because it's a two-sided marketplace. But once we got the tech platform to the point where, we were happy with it and understood the market and had a good process for recruiting swim instructors and recruiting customers, then the expansion happened much, much quicker. So from there, the next year, we expanded to multiple states at once. And then the next year after that, again, we expanded to multiple states at once. Now we're at a point where in terms of geography, like expansion that way, we're actually slowing down that and now more working on a lot more local marketing tactics in the areas that we serve, because we've really, in a lot of areas, we've just scratched the surface and we want to go much, much deeper than what we're currently doing. So that was our strategy. So slow at first, and then once we knew what we were doing, then kind of went out to mark our territory, and now going deeper.
This is Jonah Lupton, founder of the Lupton Group and host of the Startup Sense podcast. Are you struggling to find the right tech team to build your company's website or mobile app? Maybe you've developed a product but need help with your go-to-market strategy, including branding and marketing. Well, stop worrying, because my team at the Lupton Group can assist you with all of those needs. We specialize in helping entrepreneurs and startups of all sizes launch and grow their businesses. For a free consultation, you can email me at jonalupton@gmail.com or visit our website at luptongroup.co. Now, when you go into a new market, do you typically go after the instructors first or try to get customer demand first?
That's a good question. We kind of, it's a little bit of both. So
Right.
we definitely will start getting some instructors, have them come online, but in the background, the marketing team is also starting to, prepare, the pay-per-click ads, the landing pages in those areas. So kind of, we might not necessarily activate things, but we're kind of getting things set up so that we can kind of, pounce at the right time, and hopefully once we've got some instructors recruited, we're kind of at the point where we can kind of turn on the switch and start getting customers in those areas pretty quickly.
You said pay-per-click. Is it Facebook ads? Are you guys running Google stuff? Are people Googling, private swim instructor and coming across your website? Is that the strategy?
Yeah, it's a combination of both of those, actually. So yeah, whether we're trying to capture people who are searching for private swim lessons, or even just popping up on in people's Facebook feeds. There's also still a lot of people out there that just don't even know that there's a service where people can come to your home and teach private swim lessons. There's also that awareness that we're also trying to build. And so that's why, sometimes people aren't going to, you need to go one step before that. Otherwise the Google ads aren't going to, people only know to look if they're searching for private swim.
Right. Yeah, there needs to be some awareness. And I would think a business like this, it's very word of mouth, right? I mean, moms talk. So if one mom's, just bought lessons for the kids, she's going to go tell her 3 best friends, and they're going to get lessons for their kids, right? Or they do a group lesson together.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. And that's exactly why it's so important for us to provide such a good service, because we want people to have that good experience and then spread the word among their friends.
So how much money do you think that you guys spend in order to go into a new market? Like, say, for instance, you're not in San Diego and you want to go into San Diego. How much would you allocate to, ramping up with both instructors and customers?
It depends. So on a market, like if we were to kind of go into San Diego for the first time, or, any market, like where we'll first start, we will start kind of on the SEO and content marketing side of things to keep costs low, but we'll quickly, a market like San Diego and California will just take a larger budget than, let me see, somewhere that's more seasonal, like, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Like it just, there's more people searching. It's more people. So we can, it totally depends. If we see a market gaining traction, we'll put more budget towards it. But yeah, I mean, we're definitely spending, thousands of dollars every time we enter a new city.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, how much do the instructors make, and what percentage of them are considered active on the platform? I mean, I'm sure 1,800 people are not all active. So where do you draw the line?
Yeah. So our instructors, our prices fluctuate depending on where in the United States the lessons are happening. So the instructors make anywhere from $30 to $60 an hour for teaching or lifeguarding. If they're lifeguarding at someone's private pool, we do that as well. So it really depends, but we want to make sure that it's a competitive wage that the instructors are getting, and that it covers the fact that they're also traveling to different locations instead of just staying at one place for all 8 hours of the day. In terms of how many are we have 1,800, but they're not always active for a number of reasons. So some of them are college students, and so they'll go back to they'll be back at school and not really looking to teach while they're taking their courses.
Right.
They kind of want to focus on school. Others, it's just, they'll become more active again, I'd say from kind of March till August, March to September, and then they might kind of disappear for a while when the weather's colder and then come back again. But, for a lot of our instructors, it's a second or third job for them. So basically, some of them might have like a day job where they're working from, say, even, 7 a.m. till 3 p.m. And then they'll come on and work, open up availability so that they can teach clients in the evenings or on weekends as well. There are other instructors who, in the summer months, they will work for us full time, and they'd actually love to work for us full time year round. And so that's where at AquaMobile, we are trying to, make it, so that some of our instructors, if they do want to stay full time year round, they can work for AquaMobile full time. Yeah.
Right. Right. So, okay. Right. So if they're in, Massachusetts in the summertime, in the winter, they would head down to Florida because that's where they're going to be able to find work. Right.
Yeah. Or even, even in Massachusetts, like even if, there's that's also then falls on
there's indoor pools too.
Exactly. And that's where then it falls on us to do more marketing and be targeting clients, who have access to indoor pools and have that going year round. So that's something that we're definitely working on, because it's feedback that, we're getting more and more frequently, which is, hey, we love working for AquaMobile. Like, how do I make this my full-time job and quit my other job? And,
right. So
and that's something.
Like my old gym, which is 20 minutes away from me, they have an indoor pool, but it's vacant 90% of the time. I'm sure they would love to find a way to try to monetize that pool if possible. So maybe, there's other gym pools out there that AquaMobile can partner with. I'm sure you're already thinking about this though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's something that we've been working on as well. And even condo pools and apartment pools, so many of them sit empty for most of the day. So there's a lot of opportunities, and it's just kind of figuring out that demand supply balance, so that, for the instructors that want to stay with us full time, how can we accommodate that? And there's always going to be some instructors that just want to be with us part time, and that's completely fine. And they can. It's kind of like a break from their career job, or the job that they went into after. And then in other places, in some parts of the states, where there's still, the economies are still not necessarily that strong. Some people got laid off in the last recession, have never really been able to find a full-time job after that. So, coming back into aquatics and working for AquaMobile is another. We've seen another group of people that fall into that category that come and work for us.
Now, you're still bootstrapped. Have you tried to raise capital and were unable, or have you not tried?
I've been offered capital. It's something I've been avoiding for a number of reasons. But I have had offers for capital. But the way it's one of those things. Every once in a while, I do debate it, but I personally like having, bootstrapping and having full control over the company. And even if that means potentially growing a little bit slower than if I had this capital injection, at the same time, it's also forced me to focus on bottom line metrics instead of just continuing to focus on top line metrics. I've seen a number of businesses and friends who have had their business fail because they were given huge capital injections, and they kept getting more and more money on the basis of, well, number of users and subscribers keeps growing, so that must mean that it's going to happen forever. And at the end of the day, by having more limited resources, it's really forced me to focus every dollar in the most optimal way, so that I can run a profitable business and make sure I've got my employees set long-term careers instead of running the risk of, rolling the dice and seeing what happens and, shooting for the moon if we're going to be here in a couple of years or not.
What's been the most difficult thing that you had to overcome over the last 5-6 years since you went full time?
I would say it's the one thing, and I mean, this might be kind of, one of the things that can be a little bit more challenging with bootstrapping is finding the right team members. I am a little bit, and I have a great team. We have a great team at AquaMobile, but it's taken me a long time, and I'm still learning in terms of getting the right team together. And maybe also because I'm bootstrapping, I am sometimes more limited in terms of what my budget for a certain position can be, versus if I had that huge cash infusion, I could just go and get the best of the best and all the time and not worry about it. Where sometimes what the strategy has been is, let's find a rising superstar and teach them and grow them from within so that they keep growing as the company grows. And that strategy has been successful, but it's also had I've also failed at it too, where I've made the wrong hiring decisions, and it's possible that those hiring decisions, maybe I would have had a greater chance of success had I been, had more capital available and can kind of recruit from a different tier. So, it's one of those things that sometimes the people side can be challenging, and I'm always constantly learning. And I think, like I said, we've got a great team at AquaMobile, and it's grown stronger and stronger. But it's definitely been getting that right has been a challenge, and I've sometimes made the wrong hiring decisions.
So for anyone thinking about building a business that's going to require using dozens, or in your case, hundreds or even thousands of independent reps or independent contractors, however you guys classify them, what advice would you have? I mean, how do you manage that many people? What tech stack do you use to manage them? I mean, how do you communicate with all of them? I mean, it's got to be a tedious thing.
Yeah, and that's why we didn't do it all overnight, because I think it can go horribly wrong if you try and do too much at once. I think it's really important to make sure that that you're still, even if with 1,800 people, that you're still communicating and making everyone feel like they're part of a small team, even though you might be quite large. So having those touch points is huge. That's been one of the things that we're always trying to do more and more of is build the community, build the AquaMobile family, and stay close, even if we might be far apart. Because even some of our management team, we're not necessarily all located in one place, and so having those touch points is really important. And then on top of that, I would say, don't try and, when managing 1,800 people or trying to scale in multiple regions, I think it's really important to get it right in a couple markets first before you try and spread too quickly, because chaos can ensue if you don't do it properly. And make sure you're adding value to both sides of the marketplace. I mean, at AquaMobile, we are a two-sided marketplace. We've got, our customers on the demand side and our instructors on the supply side. And I think, it's really important to me that we're constantly adding more and more value to both sides of the marketplaces. That's been one of my things. I never just wanted to be a marketplace where anyone can sign up and be a swim instructor. Anyone can offer their services. It's not like that. We heavily curate who's on our platform, and who's going out to teach the lessons. And we're setting the prices on a region by region basis. So that's really important. We're adding a lot of value in a number of other ways as well, from our multi-million-dollar insurance policy to the local marketing efforts that we do, the customer service reps to help sell the lessons and to help take care of all the maintenance that happens if a lesson needs to be rescheduled, or, a child, meshing properly with an instructor, which doesn't happen that often, but these type of things still all need touch points. And so we're always trying to add value that way instead of just, hey, we're an app, you go online yourself and book it. Like we have those human touch points as well.
What type of insurance policy is required, and how much does it cost you a year? Because I think this is one thing that maybe some entrepreneurs going into a new business don't appreciate is these little things, the accounting, the legal, the insurance. I think we overlook it, or we don't, maybe we jump over it or past it, and then it bites us in the ass. We have to come back and fix it. So, I mean, if you don't mind telling us, was it a $3 or $4 million policy?
Yeah, so we've got, it's, I believe the policy that we're currently on now, it's, I believe it's either $2 or $3 million, general liability policy that we'll have. It fluctuates depending on the year, but and who the insurance broker ends up using, I believe. But that's where we're sitting right now, and then it depends. Like it keeps going up as revenue and number of instructors go up.
Right.
But it's definitely, it's kind of a 5-figure cost. So it's definitely a sizable portion, and it's something that a lot of if someone were to go out on their own and try to get a policy, it would be more unattainable. I think just due to when you're a solo person or just have a team of 2 or 3, the cost as a percentage of revenue goes up quite a bit.
Sure.
So,
yep.
So we're lucky that, yes, it's an expensive cost, but it's also something that as we get bigger, there's also the, from a scale perspective, it's a little more efficient for us to go out and get those type of policies.
So if you went full-time in 2011, when did you hire your first full-time employee? So my first full-time employee was actually, I think it was 2014. So before that, I was more, I've even when I started in 2011, I had a couple part-time people working for me, and then would ramp up in the summer months. But I think my first salaried person was actually in 2014. Before that, I would just really use the seasonality to my benefit and bring in, more part-time people to help. And I think that's what did allow me to grow. And after hiring the first person, it did kind of grow pretty quickly where we needed to, keep growing the team pretty quickly. But what was that first person's role?
That first person's role, and she's still with the company, and she's
good.
Her role has changed a lot. She's now, so when she started actually, her name's Mindy. She started actually as a swim instructor. She was one of my first Florida swim instructor hires. And she saw the position open up, and she'd actually left AquaMobile because she'd gotten a full-time job elsewhere. And she saw this opportunity. She's like, hey, I would love to come work for AquaMobile again. And she came back full-time, but her focus was a lot of kind of customer service stuff. So, dealing with phone calls from customers and from instructors, helping, and then she kind of morphed into hiring some swim instructors, hiring the swim instructors, onboarding the swim instructors. And then it kind of morphed into, she would, even in the off season when that type of stuff ramped down, she would help with more admin stuff or a little bit of marketing support. And now she's our general manager, and she kind of oversees all sorts of things, making sure, marketing and recruiting are running efficiently, overseeing if there's any, overseeing the customer service team as they ramp up, because that's a huge task in itself, because we go from, in the off season, just having a couple customer service reps ramping up to, 20 to 30 of them in the busy season. So she kind of oversees a lot of different things. So her role has definitely morphed over the last few years.
Yeah, hiring that many reps that quickly must get interesting.
Oh yeah, it's tough, and we're always learning tricks on how to make it more and more efficient. Again, because especially with something seasonal, what we've learned is if you hire too early, then, they might get antsy when the hours haven't quite picked up yet and then quit on you, and you have to do even more work. So we've learned from that mistake too.
If you could go back and give yourself a piece of advice, go back 6 years, I guess, or 5 years, and give yourself some advice, what would you tell yourself?
Oh my gosh, so many options for what to tell myself. This is advice that I give to lots of entrepreneurs, and I give to myself, and I need to give it to myself. I'm always reminding myself about this piece of advice, and it's to focus. Stick to something and focus on it. And I find I am even continually reminding myself that, because as we get bigger, there's even more opportunities to focus on one thing more and more, and not get distracted. So it's always that constant challenge, because there's always so many opportunities that present, whether you're an entrepreneur starting out or an entrepreneur that's already scaled. There's different sets of things that can distract you and, say, that's the way we could make money this way or make money that way. And I just find the more we focus, whether it's focusing on our marketing efforts or focusing on the right type of partnerships or focusing on the right type of lessons to teach, it becomes easier and easier and easier as you grow to handle things. Because otherwise, you try doing that, doing all these things and offering all these sub things, and it can cause issues.
I mean, that's pretty much all I really have for you. What did we miss? Anything that you really wanted to mention that I didn't get a chance to ask you?
The one thing I wouldn't mind mentioning is maybe the question is kind of, for people that don't have a pool, like how do they, how do they, get swim lessons, or what do you do for your customers that don't have swim lessons? And the reason I say that is because one of the big initiatives that we've done is we've created these free learn to swim videos, basically for people that, whether they don't have access to a pool or can't afford our lessons, they can go online and watch our videos and learn that way. And we've had the videos were geared towards, the very first set of videos we made was actually geared towards kids. And we had a woman in India contact us saying that she'd been wanting to swim her whole life, learning how. And she watched our videos and she learned how. And she was telling us about her first day at the pool with her, her friends, and she could finally join them. So I wouldn't mind sharing something about that, just kind of hey, even if you don't have a pool or can't afford the lessons, check us out and you can still learn. Because, at the end of the day, I think everyone should learn how to swim and stay safer on the water.
And can you guys also do lessons in lakes or ponds?
Our insurance policy changes year to year. I think right now we're actually, I don't think the new policy does. We don't get asked that a ton.
Really?
We definitely don't do ocean just because it's that could be a liability.
No, for sure not ocean.
That could be a liability. Yeah, it's weird. We used to be able to do lakes in Canada and not in the U.S. And now we're under a joint policy for both countries, and I think the answer is no.
Okay.
So yeah, unfortunately not. But yeah,
what's been one of your biggest financial misses? I mean, maybe it was you spent a bunch of money on a particular marketing strategy that just didn't pay off, or maybe you hired the wrong person, or some attorney screwed you over. I mean, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Anything stick out?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it was. I'd say on the marketing side, we. I think we, last year, and that's also the thing. Sometimes when you have more money, you can make more mistakes. But we did test a bunch of different marketing techniques, and also hired extra marketing staff last year. And honestly, we didn't. There were a couple of we spread ourselves too thin on the marketing strategies, and we were trying to do too many different things and not doing any of them extremely well. So we were doing a lot of them, okay to decent, but not knocking any marketing strategy out of the park, in my opinion. And I think we would have been much better, just focusing our marketing efforts on the few techniques that were working for us when we were a smaller marketing team, and just doubled down on those.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's pretty much all I got for you. Yeah, I'd say that's probably it. I mean, that's a good 30, 40-minute interview. What is the best way for people to connect with you? Actually, I guess one last question is, how many customers have you guys served in total since you started this company 15 years ago? 13.
Gosh, so we've served now over 15,000 customers, and that's and about 30,000 students. So it's and we're growing and helping more people every day. So that's pretty cool.
Awesome. And then what's actually I'll ask this. What are some of the company goals for 2017? And are you guys getting into any new markets?
Yeah. So for 2017, our goal is to double revenue again. And in terms of new markets, so for the first half of the year, we're really only entering, I think, into a couple new markets, a few more cities in the U.S., like around actually Buffalo, New York area, some parts of New York State that we weren't already in, and then Alberta and Canada. But later in the year, we're actually going to be looking into Australia. So that'll come more in the later half of the year, though, because right now it's opposite seasons from what you have in Canada and the U.S. So when things start to slow down in Canada and the U.S., we've got operations elsewhere. So that's I'd say one of the goals is, so if everything goes according to plan, that's where we'll be.
So that would help smooth out your financials over the course of the year.
Totally, yeah. Because that's also one of the things, that that I think is important for anyone to remember. As the business grows, especially seasonal businesses, we have massive cash inflow coming in for part of the year, and then it's kind of really down to nothing in the other months compared to what our carrying costs are with the salaries and everything. So really important to try to couple things to even that out, which is where expanding into other areas could help, but also just to be properly aware of cash flow and manage that and realize, hey, like the good times aren't going to last forever. Like you have to make sure you properly plan out cash flows and have enough to properly balance out in the slow season.
So the reason I asked the customer number is because I was curious, at what point you can leverage that customer base and introduce new services or products to them. I mean, have you thought about anything that you'd like to try to get into next?
Yeah, so that's another thing for expansion. So with our tech platform, there's still a couple things I feel that I want to improve on the tech side of things before we go into other markets. But I mean, our tech platform can essentially be used for things like at-home Pilates, at-home personal training, really at-home anything. So we've got this tech platform, and we're right now choosing to use it only for swim lessons. But there's really nothing holding us back from going into other verticals as well. I just want to make sure it's done in a thoughtful way, and I don't kind of risk a business that's already growing and doing well to try and enter something else just because that seems like the next logical move to do. So I'm being very careful about that, and also knowing that if that's something I do want to do, it's also moving away from my bootstrapping mentality, which I love doing. And, if I'm going to try and go into many verticals at once and own those markets, then it is more important to have that cash inflow where, for now with just swimming, I've been able to do it with just bootstrapping. So it just changes things if I go into more verticals at one time.
Oh, for sure. I mean, at least when you started, you're doing the swim instructors from scratch. You were kind of naive probably, and most of us are. You didn't really know what it was going to take and how big it would get, and what it would take to scale. Now at least you know. So if you get into other verticals, at least you know what's going to take to make it work.
Exactly, yeah, and just some verticals are Swimming is a little bit more contained. There are some other massive verticals out there, like, personal training. It's a huge, huge market, much bigger than swimming. So it's like, all right, this takes even more. So there's many things, and I do think about this because it just means, potentially changing the course of how I do business and and what type of metrics I look at and push for. So like I said, I've seen lots of kind of marketplace apps that have failed, that have taken off and, done really well at first, raised big money and totally failed. And I'm very aware of, wanting to make sure that, I don't fall into those same traps if I go and expand into other verticals.
Probably is some sort of an opportunity for a personal trainer kind of discovery marketplace or platform where people can see personal trainers in their area, maybe some, a short video from those people, their credentials, testimonials from other clients, and then they can figure out for themselves which personal trainer, they think they'd match up best with, rather than just joining a gym and getting stuck with the three personal trainers.
Yeah, exactly. Whoever's there. So
exactly.
Yeah, there's many. This is like the classic entrepreneur dilemma. So many opportunities, right? And that's why I'm always constantly telling myself and others, focus, because it can be.
Yep.
The classic entrepreneur always sees ideas everywhere, which is great, but yeah.
No, I feel you. It's easy to get distracted. I mean, you want to make money and you don't want to miss out on an opportunity, to grow the company and bring on more people and whatnot. So, well, it sounds like you're doing a great job. I want to wish you the best. Sounds like 2017 is off to a great start. I hope that continues.
Thank you.
Thanks for being a guest. We really, really appreciate it and glad we got a chance to talk with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. This has been great.
Absolutely. Thanks, Diana. Talk to you soon.
Okay, talk to you soon.
Bye.